Hi everybody, this is Clarine from In Rainy's room. Today we're going to make a St. Patrick's Z-fold box card. And that just means that it has this little box in the middle and you can put all your fancy ephemera. In this case we got the leprechauns going today. Anyway, it folds up into an envelope that's about 5.5 by 5.5, and then when you open it out it's a full 11 inches. And then here's the back. There's plenty of room for sentiment up there. All right, well, let's get started. So I picked out my characters and my ephemera from the clip art on the internet. I brought it into Photoshop Elements, sized it down to what I wanted. And these are the colors that I picked for the background papers. So of course I've already cut out all of the little characters, so we won't be doing that. But we are going to cut out these papers. Now these are the directions. If you want to write these down, the base is going to be out of black cardstock, and then these are the colors that I picked to go on top of that. And I'm going to say what the measurements are as I go along, but you can go ahead and write that down if you like. And I'm going to go ahead and get my scoreboard. Now it looks like I already scored ahead of time, so let me just put this on here and read the directions for you. Alrighty, so I'm going to put this piece of cardstock that's 5.5 by 11 with the long side at the top. I'm going to score at 2 3/4 and 5.5. That's going to be the back of the card. And then I'm going to cut a piece that is 2 1/4 by 11. And again, that goes at the with the long side up at the top. And I'm going to score at 5.5 and 8 1/4. And for the third piece, we're going to cut a piece that is 2/8 by 11 inches. And we're going to score at 3/4, 3.5, 4 1/4, 7, 7 3/4, and then 10.5. And this is going to be our bases for the inside of the box card that holds up all the little characters. And I'll show you how to put that on in a minute. All right, so the rest of the card, let me cut this out. All right, so these I already stamped out. These are little 1-inch punch, and I outlined them in black because it was just too much white showing. And I'm going to cut out the sentiment first, which is this top one. Let me get myself a straight line here. Okay. So this one, if you're following along on these directions, this is the sentiment on the back. It's 5 1/4 by 3. Put that out. Now I pre-cut these when I had my measurements, so I know that this is measuring 5 1/4 by 3. So I'm just cutting it on the lines. And then I'm going to cut out the backdrop, which is the front panel, and that's this wider side up here. And that's going to be 3 inches by 5 1/4. I'm kind of cutting this off of my pattern might go along. So I'll get a straight edge here for the 3 inches. And I'll measure that right there. And then this piece is 5 1/4. So I'll bring that over here. There we go. Now the last 2 pieces that we're going to cut out are these 2 little sections up here. And those are going to be 3 inches wide. Let me cut that first. I'm going to do both of them at the same time, so that's 3 inches height. And then they are 2 1/2 inches wide plus 1/16. So when you cut that, you go to your 2 1/2 inches, and then it's that first little line. That's the 1/16. I think it just adds it a nice little more depth to it. And there's 2 of those. That's 2 1/2 plus 1/16. There we go. Now, I wanted to get rid of the whiteness on the side. So I'm using these little markers, and I'm just tilting it so that I can get rid of the white. You could also use distress ink and just distress all of these parts. There's not a lot here, so I just thought this would be fine. I did those 2. This one. And that one. And then I'm also going to put it around this background piece. And this is the sentiment in the back, so I'm going to do that as well. Now I cut my little characters out using a scan and cut, so it sure saves a lot of time. It's fun to fancy cut, but not when you're doing this many characters. So I like using that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to bring this background over, and I'm going to fold this way and this way, and that's going to kind of give you a Z shape. You'll see it'll set right like that. Then I'm going to take the second of these 2 narrower ones. Remember, one is 2 1/4 and one is 2 1/8. So I'm going to take the 2 1/4 one, and that's going to go on the front of the card. And I'm going to attach that. First I'm going to kind of dry fit it here and mark how high up I'm going to go. This is really hard to see in black, but I'm just going to put a little line there, just so I know how far up to go, because I'm only putting the runner tape in this little square. So I'll put that in here between the score line and that little mark I made. And then I'm just going to mate up the edges on the side and on the bottom. Like that. And make sure that lines up on the edge. There you can, they're both 11 inches, so it just is nice and flat. Let's put that down there. And remember to burnish where you put your tape runner. Then this other section over here, there's no gluing in the middle here, because that's going to form our Z and then our little basket in there. So this part that's going to get glued on this side is just this last square where you have the score line. So I'm just going to put my score tape in here. And just flatten it out so that the edges all meet. Burnish that tape. There you go. Now we're going to do a little bit of decorating before we get into putting the little insert in the center, because now we can just lay everything flat, and if you dry fit your pieces on here, you can see how everything's going to be going. I'm also going to add a row of grass down at the bottom. This is from a die set that I have where they just actually cut out grass. Just making sure the grass looks pretty even, which it does. So I'm going to run a thin line of glue just from on the bottom. I'm not going to glue the grass all the way down at the top because I want to be putting some of my pieces inside. You see how this has come down inside the grass so it looks like it's down in there. So I'm just going to put a single line of tape right down that edge. Very thin. And I'll put my grass on here. And it looks like this grass is a little higher on one side than the other, but it doesn't matter because grass is that way. Okay, so I'll put that on here. Just flatten that out. And then I'll clip this off the edge. Like that. And where those score lines were, I'm just going to bend that a little bit so that I'll still have my box. And down here as well. Goes the other way. Yeah. Okay, so then we've got some grass in there. Now while this is still flat, I'm going to go ahead and, using the score tape, put on these background pieces. And in the directions, these are called panels for the front. And I'm just going to center that in here. And I'll put these two side ones on. Just make sure, get them going the right direction. And those get centered in there as well. Oops. Looks like I got a little piece of glue stuck on here. Well, we'll have to make sure that that goes in the front because then I can cover that up with the leprechaun. So I'll put that over here. Yeah, okay. So if you put something in the wrong place, you can always cover it up. And then I'll put this piece over here. That one's not quite level, so I'm just going to move him over a bit. There we go. That's bad enough it's got a piece of glue on there. I don't want to make it worse by making it crooked. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to add onto here top of that line instead of underneath it. So then we have our score lines there all creased. This is our little box in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and put that third piece of background that we cut. Now, as you'll notice, the one side that has 3/4 is the one that's going to go in the front. So I'm going to just kind of snake this around. And you'll see how this is going to go together. Just fold them. And those go that way. And this last one is going to go that way. And then they just sit right in the box that you have created. See? I know it's hard to see with the black background, but that's what you're going to be forming there, and that's going to hold up all your little characters and fun. So I'm going to start with, having trouble with my tape. Okay, so we're going to use liquid glue because sometimes you have to move this stuff around to get it to lay in the place you want it. And so I'll put the glue on this is the 3/4 inch side, a little wider. And then this is the back side, that little 1/2 inch one that you cut at the end. So I'm going to just set these in there. And I'm going to press it against there, right here. If you look on the bottom, you can see that this is going up against the front. Right, like that. And it goes all the way to the bottom. This just sits in flat on that bottom edge. Like that. And then the one in the back fits on the inside of this edge. So I'm just going to push that down, pat it down, and go from the bottom. Sometimes it's easier to get them to stick. And I think I stuck the glue on the wrong side, so I got to put the glue on the other side. Put that over here. Okay. And it does stick to the other side of this part of the little box. There we go, like that. Right down there. Then you just mash it together. Okay, see how it's forming those little lines for you to decorate? Now, to keep those lines in line, I'm going to tilt this just a little bit and put some glue on this end. Doesn't have to go all the way down because you're just holding it in place. And you want that one to go in the middle. And then just press it down. Check it on the bottom, make sure it's flush. And then we'll bring up this last little end piece over on the other side. And we'll just tilt it a little bit, put some glue on there. It'll kind of drip down. And pat it down there. And press it into place. Don't worry about this smidgen. See where I touched it with glue? It dries clear. It's going to be just fine. Okay, bring that over just a tad, and then you can see you've got your 4 lines for your little people that you're going to put in there. Little leprechauns and their flowers, and let me just make sure I got this going right. Okay. Good. Alrighty. So now we're ready to put the rest of your parts and pieces in here. And oops, I forgot to put the sentiment on the back. Let me do that first. Don't want to forget that. that just lays right up in there. Center it a little bit on the edges, especially those top three, the top and the two sides. There you go. Okay. Let me just mash that down. And then I'm going to burnish it a little bit. Alrighty. So there's the base of your card. Now, I'm going to put a few things on here just to show you, you know, how to get them centered in there, and a couple other little things that I like to do to my elements. First of all, I'm going to be using pop-up dots. Now, remember, when you're using pop-up dots, you still have to dry fit everything. And the top of the grass, I'm going to bring that forward by using my little pokey tool so that it kind of looks like this pot is sitting in the grass. So that's going to go about there. I'm going to put some pop-up dots on there, remembering that you only want pop-up dots where they're going to be touching something. So keep that in mind when you're doing the placement of your dots. Like this goes about to here, so I wouldn't put a pop-up dot up at the top unless I wanted it to be stuck on there, which I don't, because I'm going to put that leprechaun up there. So I'm going to put this about here. It's about 3/4 at a tilting. There we go. About like that. And then mash it into place. And then I'm going to put the leprechaun up there. Where'd that leprechaun go? It's getting away from me. Okay, there's the other leprechaun. I have them reversed so that sometimes you don't want to put them going in the same direction. So I have pop-up dots on the bottom and then one at the top. So I'm going to put him in here, but because I have pop-up dots here, they're kind of in my way, so I'm going to have to cut his legs off. So I'm just going to snip on him right like that. Reapply a couple pop-up dots. And I'm going to position him behind here because I want it to look like he's standing behind it. Keeping in mind that I do have an edge here in case I ever wanted to put this in an envelope. So I'm going to kind of tilt him a little bit like that. And mash that down. And I may have cut too much of his legs off, but I wanted to get that ink spot, or glob of glue, or whatever that was. I wanted to get that covered up. So what I'm going to do is take one of these shamrocks and cover up this little piece here where I cut off I probably could have cut his legs off a little differently, but I'm going to leave it there. Put the shamrock on. And then that'll take care of that. There's another one of those pop-up dots in my way, so I'm going to have to clip off a little more of the shamrock. I'll go like that. Then I can get this tucked in here behind the bucket of gold. Oh, gold. Just like that. There we go. Now, you're going to arrange this any way that you want. As you can see, I added some more shamrocks and then the little flowers, and then I put these medallions. Put one up here and I put one back in this background. you'll just kind of have to put them where you think they look good and what you want to do. Something else that I found helpful that I'll pass on to you is that if you have a pair of tweezers and you can kind of position where you want things to be, like if I want to put him in here, then I have to see where his legs are so that I know where to put my pop-up dots to attach them to these lines that we made, like that. So I'm going to put them just above his feet. And a couple of them are going to hold him. That'll be plenty because there's going to be a lot around him. So I'll put him right there. And then I'll hold that. And you can come up from the bottom, grab his feet, and then that gives you a couple places where you can hold to press those dots in. Oops, I'm going to go down a little lower. There we go. Okay. There he is. Alrighty. And then I thought that the little flowers and the shamrocks add a lot to it, and these little gold medallions, all the other little things that I had cut out. And I'll show you some of these. But I'm not going to have you watch me put them on because that'll take way too long. Take your time, kind of dry fit everything, see where you want to put things, see how they look, and then put them where you think they're going to do the best. I'm pretty happy with him. Okay, so there you have it. Thanks for coming today.